Hi everyone, welcome back to Aspergers from the Inside. You're here with Paul. So I don't know if you've had this experience where you have an amazing, incredible idea and you share it with a group and then nothing happens. They don't act on it, they don't acknowledge it, it feels like they hardly even consider the idea at all. And then maybe another time, maybe a little bit later, someone else suggests exactly the same idea, and all of a sudden people are like, yeah, that's great, let's do that. So the quintessential example of this for me goes back to primary school, and it might be something like, hey guys, why don't we have a game of basketball? And everyone just sort of doesn't really respond, sort of looks around, looks at each other. And what they're doing is, because I'm not the leader, they're looking towards the natural leader. They're looking towards their peers to see, does everyone else think this is a good idea or not? The weird kid over there has suggested something, and I don't want to put my hand up and say, yes, that's a good idea, until I'm sure that everyone else also thinks that's a good idea. Conversely, when what I would call the natural leader of the group mentions something, people know that if that person says something's a good idea, it's likely that everyone else is also going to agree. So it's safe to say, yes, I agree, that's a good idea. And so in that sense, there's a good reason why being autistic means you're probably not a natural born leader. And this is because very often the things that I do are not the kind of things that other people want to do, or even more specifically, it's not the kind of things that other people want to follow. So, for example, if we're all sitting down in a group, sometimes I might get up and walk around or do my own thing. You don't want to follow the guy who's doing his own thing, right? Because why would you do that? Most people want to follow what is safe to do in the group, what is everyone else doing. Whereas the leader of the group is likely to do something that other people are also going to want to do, which means if the leader does something new and different, you're like, oh, well, why don't I do that too? I'll be one of the first followers. People will then come and do the same thing as well, and I'll be cool and I'll be popular and whatever. Everyone's happy. I know this is I'm getting a little bit into my special interest of emotional intelligence and behavior here, and clearly I've been studying this for a very, very long time, both professionally and just in my own life. And this insight really helped me understand, because I used to think it wasn't fair. I used to think that the quality of the idea was all that mattered, and it was really unfair that when I came up with a good idea, no one listened, and when someone else suggested the same idea, it actually happened. Whereas I find now, having an understanding of what the difference is and why people don't naturally follow me, helps me to not be quite so angry at the world for that, because it felt like a massive injustice, because I was having these good ideas and no one was doing anything about it. So that's interesting. There's actually another way. So if we are not natural born leaders, what are we? And another explanation is that our ideas are often so ahead of their time that the people around us just don't get them yet. I had the privilege of having a chat to Judy Singer just recently, and she was talking about neurodiversity, right, in 1990. I saw a meme on Facebook the other day. The year 2050 is as far away as 1990, right? That was 30 years ago now. And you'd think we'd come a long way since then. And we have. Nowadays, we talk about neurodiversity a lot. But 30 years ago, she was well ahead of her time, probably 30 years ahead of her time. And if you took out that thesis now and started reading it, you go, oh, yep, that's a good explanation of what neurodiversity is. However, people who are decades or even more ahead of their time have a lot of trouble finding other people around them who understand their idea enough and understand the implications of the idea and how good is this idea enough to actually want to follow. There's something called an innovation curve, which many of you have seen. I wonder if you can see this. It's almost like I'm so far out here that I've got this idea before anyone else, like decades before anyone else. And of course, no one else thinks it's a good idea yet because they don't know what it is. And then eventually, more and more people catch on. And then eventually it becomes mainstream. And then all of a sudden, everyone's doing it and it's a trend. And then, so if we are not leaders, and I don't want to generalize, right? Maybe some of you are. Maybe some of us are. If we're not leaders, what a lot of autistic people are innovators. So this is something good to remember, because we're not all born to be leaders. But if you are an innovator, you have something very valuable to give to the world, and you're the kind of person that people will look back and eventually realize how good your idea was when it gets going, and when people can finally see the result of your innovation. So that's why people and companies and anyone that invests, for lack of a better word, in cultivating autistic people, in making sure that we're included in society, that's why it's a good idea to make the world more autism friendly, so that we can give our contribution to society. Because as I mentioned, we're unlikely to be the ones out the front leading the charge of masses of people, right? That requires popularity, that requires understanding exactly what the majority of people think and feel. And the majority of people think and feel things that are significantly different to what I think and feel. So if I assume someone else is going to react the same as me, I'm probably going to be wrong. And on a big scale, that's often the case. So I've found this insight for myself really helpful, that I'm not trying to do that. Instead, my ideas are innovative. My ideas are going to resonate with a small group of people, and we are going to start slowly attracting more and more attention, and the world is going to change eventually. We're not bashing our head against a brick wall. We're just at the very, 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 very start of this exponential curve that will take off later. Does that make sense? Hopefully it does. Anyway, if not, bad luck, you've already watched the video. Okay, hope you've enjoyed this, and I'll see you again another time. Bye.